All right, here we go. Sunday submission for MMAnews.com. If you're not a subscriber to the Sunday MMAnews.com YouTube channel, you can please like and subscribe so you can get these and all the fighter interviews that we have up. I think this past week we've had Liz Carmouche, Keith Lee, and Randa Marcos on the YouTube channel. So make sure you like and subscribe to MMAnews.com so you can get all the latest interviews and news from the website. Happy Labor Day, everybody. It is Sunday. Labor Day is tomorrow, but it's Labor Day weekend. So hopefully you're either out at a barbecue watching this or maybe, doing your thing. Some people get the end of the summer blues. I kind of fall in that category, but, I'll get out in the sunlight and forget about it as soon as I'm done doing this. But yeah. Last night, UFC Vegas 9. I always lose the numbers with all the different broadcast choices we have these days. I'm always forgetful of what the event is, so I go by the social hashtag. I think it's UFC on ESPN plus 34, according to MMAnews.com. If you missed it, full results are up at MMAnews.com on the website. And by now, I'm sure you've heard that Alistair Overeem is not as old as we thought he was, and he picked up his TKO in the 5th round. Ovince Prue, obviously with his knockout, 2nd round knockout over Alonzo Menifield. Michel Pereira gets the submission, round 3 submission, and Andre Muniz gets another submission armbar. I think all those got fight of the night, including Brian Kelleher with his submission over last-minute replacement Ray Rodriguez. Lots to talk about. So there's a lot going on yesterday. I was with my family watching the Kentucky Derby, and as I'm watching the stuff with them, I'm getting the alerts on my phone of all the fights that were lost or remixed. The Brian Kelleher result is what made me want to get into that. Obviously, lots happened. They pushed the event back. It was supposed to start initially at 6 p.m. and my time, Eastern time, and then they pushed it back to by an hour to 7 because of all the updates that happened within like a 24-hour period. So I'm gonna read the UFC. What time was this? Did they put the time on their post? The UFC put an official announcement up yesterday, maybe in an hour before it was supposed to start, 4:30, 5 o'clock my time. So let me read you what they because of all the changes. Off the top of my head, I don't remember the way that they were happening. Plus, watching the Kentucky Derby, drinking with my family. So let me read this is from the UFC news, UFC.com news website. Due to positive COVID-19 test results, the following bouts have been canceled from today's card. So they lost Alex Romanov versus Marcos Rogerio de Lima and Thiago Moses versus Jalen Turner. And then they initially, as a precaution, Kevin Natividad was removed from his bout against Brian Kelleher, who will be replaced by Dana White's Contender Series alum Ray Rodriguez. Rodriguez appeared on the show last season, won 11 of his last 13 bouts. UFC Fight Night headline by top 10 heavyweight contenders Overeem Sakai will move forward at the UFC Apex with a 7-bout card beginning at 7 p.m. And that was their statement on that. So they got Kelleher a replacement, and then those 2 fights, Romanov, Rogerio de Lima, and Moses versus Turner, were pulled all because of COVID-19. I think I might have mentioned it last weekend that the COVID-19, I don't even like. So you're gonna see both sides, the comments and the reactions to. If you look back on your social, whatever, you were monitoring everything happening yesterday. Um, it's I don't like to get into like political stuff and anything like that, so I'm not going to, but I'm going to play devil's advocate and just mention the things that folks are mentioning. And I'm also going to draw from something that happened in boxing at the beginning of this when combat sports was doing their best to resume. So if you remember, one of the things about these tests, I mean, a lot of times you hear false negatives, false positives, and things like that pop up during this whole COVID-19 situation, right? So, the thing about with what's happening, you know, uh, with what's been happening, especially in Vegas, and the reason why I'm singling out Vegas is because I know the MGM bubble that Top Rank was using. I believe Michaela Mayer, when she was supposed to initially, this might have been in June. Um, her bout got postponed due to a positive COVID-19 test, and then she went off on her own and paid an independent company to show that while her test in Vegas came up negative, she positive. She took one as soon as she could when she was sent back home, or however they handle it, and she put it all over. Check Michaela Mayer's Instagram or Twitter. I forget where she posted it, but she was like, "I'm negative. I'm not. I'm fine. I could have gone, and now I have to wait for this money and things of that nature." So, and again, we've heard about the false negatives and false positives and stuff like that pop up while this whole thing is happening. So, I mean, you can't help but wonder. And I do agree with the better safe than sorry. Like Bellator just held off on putting events on right up until recently, you know, because the whole situation, the way initially their plan, Bellator's plan was to be on the and Scott Coker, where their home base is in California, and hold events in a private studio, and here they are, doing events almost every other weekend here on the East Coast at Mohegan Sun, just because Connecticut is Connecticut, New York, New Jersey has been one of the states that seem to kind of have our numbers leveled off as far as COVID-19 is concerned. So, that being said, the thing about the testing, it just seems like it makes it come into question as often as they're tested, and then folks were wondering why the event wasn't called off as a whole, and then Dana White wasn't. I didn't see him. It was on ESPN Plus, which I don't have, so I didn't see it. I'd have to check social to see if there was any him. I think he did make an announcement just before on regular ESPN, just before they went live, about what they've initially put on their website, which I just read a few minutes ago. But I don't know, man. I mean, it's the putting all those protocols in place are expensive. So, for them to just have a seven bout card and still move forward. I mean, it was on ESPN Plus. I mean, the business side of it dictates why they did that. I know folks aren't going to be a fan of it, but it is what it is. Um, I'm pretty sure those protocols, on top of not having the gate and stuff like that, they probably have to make their decisions based on a business side as well as a safety side. So that's where I'll make sure the sound is working. All right. And it is. Because I got a bad USB port over here. So, anyway, the that is where I want to leave with that. I mean, everyone still got the fights that we didn't get all the fights from that card. Hopefully those folks aren't too bad with if they do have COVID, and they're not too bad. Hopefully they're all okay. Again, I'm not trying to side with anyone. I mean, I think it's good to be cautious, but there's everyone has their own reasons to do what they do. So, moving along with the event and the results back up on MMAnews.com, results of the event. One of the things that about the main event with Alistair Overeem, what's funny is this week leading up to this event, there was a lot of on social UFC social channels. They were featuring a lot of like stuff that I remember watching when it happened. Pride fights with Alistair Overeem, and talking about how long he's been fighting. Um, and I just published an article on MMAnews.com where he had kind of addressed, media. Of course, there was more than a few folks at the media that was present that asked him about, what do you plan to, when do you plan on hanging it up and stuff like that. And I mean, if you follow combat sports long enough, I mean, I don't follow too many traditional sports, and when it comes to retirement, it seems like most of those guys know when to hang it, like football players, basketball players, NBA players. I mean, I know Michael Jordan like retired and came back a few times, but um, you know, they're the ones that know when to finally call it quits. So when you look at a lot of pro athlete retirements, um, sometimes they just need a break. They'll say they retire and then they wind up coming back. Chael retired twice. Chael Sonnen retired twice. Even George St. Pierre retired, but he came back in 2017 to win the middleweight title and then just kind of walk away again. Um, and then there's even chatter about, even though he said he's denied it, there's chatter about him and Khabib as a super fight and what have you. So, but Alistair Overeem, one of the things he said at the post-fight press conference that I wrote in my piece was how he addressed, he's taking it case by case. Combat sports is absolutely a young man's sport. Even hobbyists like myself, if you've been training in martial arts for as long as I have, you start to see that there's there's a difference between the 20-something-year-old martial artist and the 30-something still kind of there, but guys in their 40s, the aches and pains don't leave you as soon as they used to. You don't get over stuff as easily as before. And if injuries come, they take a little longer, to get over, especially. So when you look at the level that guys like, I mean, even though Overeem had that split lip that seemed to heal like in 12 days, close up, and it looked like nothing happened. So maybe he is, in a sense, superhuman. Who knows if it comes from the horse meat he eats that speeds up his healing factor or what have you. But and that's a joke. I mean, but Overeem's been fighting for a long time. What did he say? I just wrote it, and I pulling the quote from the interview. He said 29. I mean, he's been fighting for well over 2 decades. When you look at what he's done in kickboxing and the Abu Dhabi combat trials, I feel like we forget that too when we watch Alistair Overeem fight, because we know about his striking background, his knockouts, but then you forget his guillotine submission used to be a thing. I forget which tournament. They just featured it on the UFC social channels, but the guillotine when he submitted Vitor Belfort and a couple of other people. But I mean, his guillotine used to mean as if he caught you in it, it was over. So when he went against Augusto Sakai, who's also got a Muay Thai background, it shouldn't be too surprising that the beginning, obviously the striking portion was difficult for them. Not difficult, but obviously it was a tougher fight until the fight went to the ground. And I think this is where being in the sport so long was a good example for Overeem, showing that his evolution as a mixed martial artist from when he started as a kickboxer and then coming into MMA and then picking up the wins that he did, just everything he's learned over time. He's trained at a lot of different. He used to be, he has trained at Jackson Wink in the past. They asked him actually to address the comments about like him and John Jones, or John Jones coming into the division that he's in, and he had nothing but respect for John Jones. He's talked about how they had a similar frame, so he's got a real breadth of knowledge when it comes to mixed martial arts. And I think we saw that when was it round 4 that he kind of saw that the ground was where he would be most dominant against Sakai, and obviously the win came in from there with the ground and pound. He said he was trying to work a submission in at first, but if it ain't broke, don't fix it. If you're able to fire away and you're on top position, which is the dominant position, and Sakai didn't seem to have anything for him there, then there was nothing left for him to really do but to just keep firing away and get the fifth round finish that he got. So good for him. But it just goes to show you how somebody that's been fighting as long as he is as cerebral. You don't get that many cerebral fighters. That's the thing. It's weird when you look at fighters that have been fighting as long as Alistair Overeem has versus these young guys that come in. I mean, like you look at someone who's getting some of the news that broke uh, leading into the week. I think it was after the face-offs, weigh-ins and face-offs on Friday, where Dana White talked about Khamzat Chimaev, who's one of the stars of that came out. No one knew anything about him before the pandemic. When they went to Abu Dhabi. I mean, I want to say stars of the pandemic because there's been this weird. I'm pretty sure I've addressed it before. I know. I know I've mentioned it on the podcast that I do in the middle of the week, but the opportunity when you look at the Dana White Contender Series, not this past week, but last week, they signed all 4 winners, and you just look perfect example from this week, Jimmy Flick, right? Jimmy Flick, he won the LFA lightweight title in July. I think that was 87. I forget the event number. But he just became the lightweight champion at LFA. Got his call to be on the Contender Series, and fought and won and got a contract. And that just goes to show that fast turnaround and the opportunity. I really do. You can see it by now that the logistics of having fighters that are ready and available and healthy, how fast they can move forward. So there's like an opportunity here for guys to come in. But well, the point I'm making, a lot of those guys are younger, so everyone sees the mistakes they may have made in the fights, like in Contender Series fights or in their first few fights in UFC, versus someone that has been fighting as long as Overeem has, to make an adjustment and notice things, and be so calm and collected, um, to make the adjustments during the fight the way he did against Sakai. That counts for a lot. That you always hear people say, I wish I had, me personally, I wish I've had the mind that I have for martial arts now. I wish I had when 20 years ago, when I was thinking about competing and stuff myself, doing what somebody I know called long pants kickboxing, which is the old school kickboxing before Muay Thai came in and took over with the leg kicks and knees and elbows and stuff like that. But yeah, so it counts for a lot, experience and the knowledge that comes with it, if your body's able to maintain. And that's the other thing that Overeem said in the post-fight press conference after the win was, I can still do it. And that's one of the things that keeps him not thinking about retirement. I mean, he got asked a few times about when he's thinking about hanging up his gloves, and he was kind of just like, I'll take it on a case by case basis, but if I feel like I can still fight and win, then I'm still going to do it. I mean, I'm summarizing what he said. It wasn't word for word, but I think it says a lot to. I mean, he's going to be 41, I think. So I guess I mean, it's definitely old for fighting, but if his body's, if he doesn't have, like look at Ben Askren. Ben Askren retired, came back because he just wanted to get that question mark answered for a UFC run. And obviously we know what happened with it, but then, after the fact, not making excuses for himself, but he let us all in on the hip surgery that he had, that was a long overdue hip issue that he was dealing with, and now he actually just got that. If you check his social, he just had that surgery done. And then, I mean, you got guys like Michael Bisping, who lost an eye and had 2 knee surgeries, and kept the eye thing a secret for years. So you never know what these guys are dealing with. But if Overeem is healthy, I don't see a reason, to not support him for his the rest of his career. It looks like he wants to keep going for at the most 3 years, based on what he said at the post-fight press conference, which is so if he's going to be 41, we're looking like a 43, 44-year-old Overeem, and obviously ranked at number 5. I looked him up this morning. I don't know if that's going to change on Tuesday or Tuesday, Wednesday when the UFC updates their rankings, but you know, ranked at number 5 in the heavyweight division in the UFC still means you're somebody to be concerned with. And I mean, I think Augusto Sakai was ranked number 8 when I looked, so I don't know if that pushes him down any further because he was 3 spots down, or if that boosts Overeem. But the entry of John Jones into that division, certainly, when you look at the guys that he has to fight there, it certainly makes for a lot of interesting high profile matchups. I wonder if they're waiting to book like stuff like that. When you look at Jones and how long he's been out, I wonder how much a gate is in the motivating booking a match. Like being able to do it someplace with fans, to book a match between John Jones and Ngannou, Stipe, or even Overeem for that matter. And the other thing I guess we should talk about in these last 9 minutes I have here, talking about heavyweights, and I'm just going to give you my opinion on it because I went at it. We talked about it at length with on the podcast I do during the week, but it deserves mentioning because obviously we had a heavyweight main event against somebody who's faced Brock Lesnar, and Brock Lesnar coming back. I honestly don't think Brock Lesnar had a nice lucky run. Well, it's not lucky. He's a talented wrestler, like a real wrestler, not the pro wrestling that he's made a career off of, and he's a physical specimen. I don't see Brock Lesnar, unless maybe that they allow live gate again. I don't see Brock Lesnar coming back to the U. If he comes back to MMA, I think it's going to be the UFC, just because that's a familiar territory. I know Scott Coker said he'd like to. He would, because Fedor's on his retirement. This was supposed to be Fedor's retirement, string of retirement fights this year before everything got put on hold from COVID. But a match, if he goes to Bellator, a match make would be Brock Lesnar versus Fedor. I think that would be something that folks would want to see. But if he does come back to MMA, it's definitely going to be for the UFC. But I don't know how old Brock Lesnar is. Let me see. I'm going to look up his age real quick. But he's got to be up there too. We're going to be talking about age. Brock Lesnar. Let's see. Stipe Miocic. Oh, he looks. But everybody wants. So Lesnar's 43. Looks like Stipe Miocic should be this. Brock Lesnar, the funny thing about him, he doesn't really do media or interviews and things like that but Miocic, I just read the headline from MMA Junkie that Miocic says he wants to be the first in line for Lesnar if he comes to, but the Brock Lesnar versus, it's like Conor McGregor, Brock versus anybody is going to make for an interesting fight. I mean, look at that whole thing. When the last time he fought was when he fought Mark Hunt. I think that was UFC 200, which I was there in Vegas for. That's the last time I was in Vegas. Sure do miss it. But yeah, so if he comes back, it's going to be in the UFC. But I don't think he wants to come back to fighting, because a return to the UFC means a return to the USADA testing pool, and you can make your own, you can draw what you want from that if how that would turn out. But I mean, I believe he did, if I'm remembering correctly, he did pop for banned substances for UFC 200 after the fact. That's one of the things Mark Hunt's many lawsuits against the UFC were about. So it's definitely like, of course, we all, everybody likes to see these. That's one of the things that, talking about Overeem and heavyweights and Pride fighting champions. That's one of the things that we loved about Pride, because Pride brought us those fights that if you wanted to see what you would call a freak show fight, people want to see. A lot of people don't mind seeing stuff like that. I mean, look at there's steam behind. Not that it's a freak show fight, but it's a fight folks wanted to see when they were in their prime. When you look at the boxing matchup coming up now in November between John Jones and Roy Jones Jr. and Mike Tyson, that's something coming up that it's got steam because it's something folks would want to see. So, but you have to look at the cost. Look at all the contenders that they're signing, and the money that they're losing with LiveGate. I have to wonder. When you look at financials, I'm not a business person. You should follow Fight Oracle on Twitter if you want to know about if you want good hot takes on the business side of the fight game or anything, because he always has a really good he's always got a good eye for foresight when it comes to things like that on the business end of things. But I don't see the money. I don't see the UFC digging deep in their pockets for Brock Lesnar. If they've already had a back and forth with Jorge Masvidal and John Jones about when this whole pandemic thing started, and obviously something happened to make Jorge Masvidal fight a couple of months back against Kamaru Usman. Yeah, Kamaru Usman. Because the cool thing about that is that you saw that's when the competitor Jorge Masvidal got a little fire lit under him. I mean, he's talked about how he wants to do fights financially that make sense, but look at him now. Now he's a little more eager to jump into another title shot just because of how he lost, but he did well for someone that came in on short notice, And speaking of short notice fights, I mean, I know I went off on this whole tangent about the heavyweights and stuff like that, Brock Lesnar, but Brian Kelleher kind of ties in because of the pro wrestling thing with Brock Lesnar. But Brian Kelleher walked into Stone Cold Steve Austin's music, and I thought that was just funny, because Kelleher is a fun follow because he puts up a lot of freestyle rap on his social and stuff like that when he gets a fight booked, and the fact that he did that was funny. But I mean, he got the submission win, but that was the last minute replacement fight that they kept to keep him on the card. I would think on the business side of thing, it just makes more sense to do stuff like that. I mean, it's crazy how Dana White makes comments about how folks that cover the sport kind of like bash the UFC for moving forward, but I mean, he does have a point, and I'll probably get a lot of crap for this and unfollowed for saying it, but I mean, as we've moved forward since March from the whole pandemic thing, I mean, you look at all the people that got laid off from big media sites and stuff like that, and it's like, I know they're just reporting. They're not trying to shut down events, but when you put that negative narrative on stuff like that, it does make it seem like you don't like the sport that you cover. Why are you a thing? But as somebody that loves martial arts, you do get worried because you don't want, if you like the UFC, like I like the whole sport of mixed martial arts. I'm not just a UFC fan. I honestly, if you had asked me, I prefer Bellator over UFC. That's just me. But if you if you keep trying to shake your finger at the promotion, then and they do wind up getting shut down. Like you look back into the whole situation at the beginning was that 249 when they had to Tony Ferguson made weight twice, and the whole thing that created what we're going to get with Khabib and Justin Gaethje. People are just, it's like if MMA was still on hold, we would be running out of things to write about and writing really sad stories. I mean, about fighters having to look for other work and stuff like that, because to be a professional fighter, you kind of got to give up a lot. You look at Overeem talked in his post-fight press conference how he hadn't seen his kids in 8 weeks because of, not just trying to keep them safe from COVID, but preparing for a full fight camp. So I'm going a little over on time talking about it, but it's one of those things that you got to pull yourself back and look at both sides of it. So that's what I'm trying to do. Hopefully, I did that for you today. Anyway, thanks for watching. Those that did, I know it's like a lazy weekend for folks, and it's Labor Day weekend, so hopefully you're getting the time, safe, socially distanced time with your family and stuff. And if you did watch the fights, I hope you enjoyed them. We got more coming at MMAnews.com. More fights coming as we resume as we go full steam into September. So thank you so much for those that watch. Thank you so much. If you do watch on the YouTube channel and I don't manage a YouTube channel, but if you drop comments, I always check for comments so I can address them in the next Sunday submission. So if you like these, if you have any questions, criticisms, or anything you want read off, drop them in the comments below in the YouTube for MMAnews.com, and I'll get to them next week. Enjoy the rest of your Labor Day weekend. Don't drink and drive. Don't be all crowded and breathing on top of each other, nasty asses. And that's it for me. Enjoy your weekend. Be safe. I'm tapping out.